Hey Mena Warriors, today we are talking about creatine and sleep. So last week I talked all about should menopausal women be taking creatine. You probably know the answer to that. Today we are diving into the specifics of how creatine might help to support your sleep and also the scientific processes that go on behind the scenes so that you can actually understand why it might be beneficial for you to consider taking creatine before bed. You might already be taking creatine as part of your muscular regeneration with your workouts, but there are more and more studies suggesting how beneficial taking creatine can be for the quality of your sleep. I've been using myself as a guinea pig literally just for about 7 days now. And I've been taking a little bit of creatine before I go to bed. I'll dive into all the specifics in a few moments. And I'm quite excited to share my anecdotal evidence with you. So even though the brain is only around about 2% of the weight of the body, it uses up about 20% of the body's energy availability. Neurons rely on a molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and that is really the energy currency of all of our cells. It's a little bit like the brain's battery and is involved in literally every process of the body, from thinking to moving to immune function to hormonal distribution, etc., etc. Everything involves ATP, which is why creatine can have such a profound impact on so many different aspects of just being in a menopausal woman's body. Adenosine triphosphate means that it contains three phosphate groups, so tri-3 phosphate. When we expend energy, that ATP turns into ADP. Adenosine triphosphate becomes adenosine diphosphate. What creatine does is it actually gives an extra phosphate to that adenosine diphosphate, which is no longer providing energy for us because it's already used one of its phosphates. It lends it a phosphate so that it becomes ATP again. So instead of acting from a partially drained battery, which is your adenosine diphosphate, it's like a fully charged battery again, which is your adenosine triphosphate. So creatine just helps neurons stay fired up and energized when they are being used, when they're being run down, like just normal everyday living. But as we go through menopause, our ability to use glucose in the brain correctly diminishes. You might be getting the brain fog, the tiredness. I will dive into that in a little bit more detail too. But when you imagine that if you're having creatine and it's allowing the ADP to become ATP again, it's going to have a beneficial impact on the available energy that you have for every cellular process that the body goes through. The brain stores around about 5% of the body's creatine. But when you think about how small the brain is, like 2% of the body's weight, the fact that it actually stores 5% of the total creatine is actually quite significant. And that creatine that it stores does help with the neuronal energy availability within the brain and your cognitive function in general. As I mentioned last week, the body does create some of its own creatine. It's a naturally occurring substance, but because as we have less availability for energy as we go through menopausal years and beyond, and a lot of people are eating vegetarian and vegan these days, that means that most people in general are having suboptimal levels of creatine. So if we can substitute a little bit, supplement with creatine monohydrate that you'd buy from a reputable source, there's very many of them. I covered that again last week. It's going to help you boost your creatine levels in your body and help with all sorts of different cellular functions around the body, including improving the quality of your sleep, improving the quality of your cognitive function. So brain fog is going to help to reduce that. It's going to help your short-term memory improve. And as you'll see today, it actually can have quite a profound impact on how well and how deep you sleep. The few different aspects we'll cover today. Firstly, creatine and sleep deprivation. So various studies have been used to see what happens to the brain when we are sleep deprived. And when people take a large dose of creatine after sleep deprivation, it helps the body maintain that sort of cognitive availability. So, you know, like if you have jet lag, if you've, I don't know, been to an all-night party, or if you're just under incredible pressure from something awful that's happened, by taking creatine, it helps to buffer the effect of the sense of fatigue that you might be feeling. And when that would be a short-term high dose of creatine, so around about sort of 20 grams of creatine instead of the sort of maintenance, which is generally advised around sort of 3 to 5 grams of creatine daily. Personally, I take between 8 and 10 grams of creatine daily. I strength train 5 or 6 times a week. But for the general population, you're looking at around about 3 to 5 grams of creatine, unless you're needing to supplement a lot to deal with acute, so short-term extreme fatigue, in which case a bigger dose up to around about 20 grams might just support you for a day or two. There was a 2024 study in Scientific Reports. I'm going to link all the studies below in the description box so you can check those out in more detail if you want to. And that study tested a high dose of creatine after severe sleep deprivation. And they found that cognitive performance was enhanced even after staying awake for 24 hours. Participants felt less fatigued, their processing speeds were improved, and general brain energy availability was higher than the control group that did not take the creatine supplement. It doesn't replace sleep, but it does give neurons extra energy to manage better, because it's helping convert that ADP back into ATP. ATP, energy currency of your cells. So it stands to reason that if you've got more ATP available, it's going to help support your energy levels across all of the cells of your body. There's also evidence that creatine may well help sleep after you've done exercise. So if you exercise regularly, you're going to know how much that can benefit your sleep, particularly if you're not exercising directly before going to bed, because sometimes that can stimulate your cortisol levels, your adrenaline, and that can make going to sleep really hard if you've had like a heavy duty workout immediately before going to bed. But if you can sort of get your workout done earlier in the day, you'll find that generally you seem to have a deeper quality of sleep because of that resistance training. But also, if you take creatine alongside of your resistance training, that can further enhance the effects of your body's ability to recover during sleep. There's a 2024 trial for women who were doing resistance training, and they found that by taking 5 grams of creatine daily over the course of 6 weeks, they were able to sleep longer and deeper on resistance training days after their workout, and also their athletic performance improved. And I've noticed that myself through my strength training. I'm 55 and I've sort of been at a plateau for a number of years with the weights that I could lift. And for my upper body weights, I've gone up around about 2 kilograms in most of my movements. And my lower body, I've gone up even further, possibly 4 or 5 kilograms. And that is after having literally been sat at that plateau for probably 7 or 8 years. And the only thing I've changed is taking creatine consistently, but also at slightly higher dosage. It's really made a remarkable improvement for me. And I just figure that if I'm doing strength training, I want to get the most out of it. So I am, and I'm seeing more muscle tone, or, you know, muscle sculpting. And obviously the more muscle you have, the more ability you have to burn up fat. It keeps your metabolism boosted, obviously helps to mitigate the risks of osteoporosis, because strong muscles generally means stronger bones, and it does give you more availability for your energy. When you're strength training, it stimulates the mitochondria in your cells, the little battery powerhouses in your cells, which rely on ATP. So strength training is beneficial in a multifactorial way too. But when you then also supplement with creatine, it means that your cells have more energy available to recover more effectively, and also give you more energy during your workout. So if you are strength training and you're not yet supplementing with creatine, I highly recommend you start. It has no side effects, and it is something that is pretty cost effective, and will help to maximize your results out of the effort that you're putting into your strength training sessions. And one of the biggest neurological changes we see during menopause, you know, one of the most common problems is brain fog, cognitive decline, lack of memory, or just fatigue in general. Your brain just feels like heavy. And that's because as estrogen declines, our glucose take up in the brain also drops off. Our mitochondrial efficiency declines, which means, we just don't have so much easy availability of our energy levels. ATP production decreases. Again, the energy currency of our cells decreases, and our brain just becomes more vulnerable to stress. We lose our resilience to stress, and that in itself also expends more energy. And research suggests that the brain can experience a 20 to 25% drop in the utilization of glucose in some regions of the brain. And then that can result in the brain fog, cognitive impairment, mood instability, poor sleep, and general fatigue. And so creatine can help as a metabolic buffer and mitigate some of those sensations of just general fatigue. And sleep is deeply tied to our brain energy levels. And one of the reasons we start to feel sleepier as the day goes on is because as we use up more ATP, adenosine triphosphate, our adenosine levels increase. Adenosine, when we have higher levels of adenosine, it gives us what's called sleep pressure. So it gives us that sense of wanting to go to sleep. We're feeling that urge to get to bed. And so the more adenosine you have, the stronger your drive to want to go to sleep. But if creatine helps to maintain ATP levels, or adenosine triphosphate levels, it can reduce metabolic stress in neurons, it can stabilize energy shifts in the brain and support healthy sleep. And that can translate into fewer nighttime awakenings. It might mean that if you do wake up, you can get back to sleep more easily. And when you do actually wake up, so say if you wake up during the middle of the night, you actually feel like, wow, I actually feel like I've slept quite well already. This has happened to me several times. Like I said, I've been taking creatine before bed for just a few days now. And I'm taking just 3 grams before I go to bed. I literally just mix it in some water and, it goes down the hatch. I have noticed I sleep with my pets. My pets, particularly the cats, are a real pain, but they're very elderly and I don't have the heart to not let them come into the bedroom. So often they wake me up several times a night. I try and get to bed quite early. I'm normally in bed by about 9 o'clock. I might not go to sleep straight away. I often listen to my Audible book. It means that my eyes can rest, but I can still listen to stuff or a podcast or something. But generally, I'm in bed by 9. And I go to sleep quite quickly. Sometimes it's literally just minutes. In fact, often it's just minutes. But then I normally wake up, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours later. Generally, one of the cats is meowing or is decided to use me as their bed, and they're just walking on me, which disturbs me. Since I've been taking creatine before bed, I'm able to, well, when I do wake up, I'm waking up thinking, wow, I feel like I've rested so well. So I might have just had 3 or 4 hours of sleep, but I really feel like that 3 or 4 hours has been really quality sleep. And I'm also able to get back to sleep a lot faster. Historically, when they wake me up, I can sometimes be awake for an hour and a half. It's rare that I'm awake for that long, but sometimes I will listen to my book if I can't go back to sleep, and then I'll listen for half an hour, and then I've still not gone back to sleep, so I put it on for another half an hour, and then sometimes I even put it on for a third half hour. I never listen to it more than an hour and a half. I sort of then I have to just lie in bed and hope to go back to sleep, which I do. Since I've been taking creatine before bed, I'm not having to listen to my book at all. It's only through choice if I want to. And in fact, last night I woke up about 4 hours after I'd gone to bed and I felt so awake. I thought, oh, I actually feel like listening to half an hour of my book. And I didn't even listen to that half hour. I fell asleep within about 10 minutes of putting it on. It's quite remarkable what an effect it can have on your sleep. The reason that I think I'm sleeping so well, so deeply, is often when the first stages of our sleep, so we follow a circadian rhythm. So our sleep cycles go in around about, on average, about 90 minutes. We're all slightly different. Some might be 80 minutes, some might be 110 minutes, give or take a few. And we tend to cycle through, light sleep, and then we go into deeper sleep in the first section of our sleep cycle. So in the first section of the night, you'll spend more time in your deep sleep, which is your restoring sleep. That's when your body heals itself. And then as you go through to the early hours and getting closer to wake up time, you'll spend more time in your REM sleep, your rapid eye movement, which is when you tend to have more dreams. So your brain's much more active then. That's when you're consolidating a lot of your memories. And so sleep does go through different cycles. And as you know, the first cycle, the first one at night, you're going to be much more in your deep sleep. The last cycle that you have before you wake up, you're going to be much more in your REM sleep. And the reason suggested that we sleep better when you take creatine before going to bed is because creatine is delivering more energy to your cells. So you're able to recover and flush out your glial cells, I'll talk about that in a minute, more effectively because you have more availability for energy. And you might think, well, if I've got more energy, surely I'm not going to sleep so well. No, it doesn't negatively impact your sleep at all because your body is healing faster. It has more availability to do the things it needs to do in the background so that it can really focus on allowing you to sleep deeply. In the brain, we don't have a lymphatic system like we do in the body. The lymphatic system clears out the toxins, helps to clear waste products from the body. In the brain, we have what's called the glymphatic system, which when you sleep well, particularly through your deeper sessions of sleep, the glial cells in the brain are flushing through the things like the beta amyloid plaques that are associated with Alzheimer's. This system is really energy dependent. So you can imagine if you've got good levels of energy in your brain, then the brain is able to clean itself out more effectively too, thus enabling you to recover and restore more effectively. So if you're one of those people like me who goes to bed earlier and then you wake up at sort of midnight, 1 a.m. and you're thinking, wow, I feel like I've really slept well already, that's a really great sign. It means that things are working well in your brain, you're recovering, you're restoring, you're flushing through those cells, and it does reduce your risk of Alzheimer's. So the bottom line is that creatine is not a sleeping pill. It's not a magic pill of any sorts, but because it supports our cellular energy, and because healing and sleeping is really energy intensive, it stands to reason that if we have more energy availability, our bodies can get on and do the healing and the cleaning that they need to while we're asleep, which would then mean that we can sleep more effectively because we have more energy availability. You know, when you think about the tissue repair, the metabolic waste clearance, the memory consolidation that takes place, and the brain uses ATP to drive neurons, astrocytes, and glial cells that do that flushing, that cleaning activity within the brain. And so when the energy levels are high, neurons and support cells can maintain strong synchronized activity. If energy levels are low, then the brain might be cautious and produce sort of lighter, less quality sleep because the deep slow wave activity when you're healing and you're restoring is too energy intensive. So you never actually have that availability to get into that really restorative sleep because the energy to get there is not available to you. The more energy availability in neurons means deeper, more restorative sleep availability for you. So if you want to read more about the studies I've referenced today and some other studies too, then they will be in the description box below. And thank you so much for your company. And remember that supporting your sleep isn't just about being in bed and getting some shut-eye. It's about giving your brain the energy that it needs to cope, to restore, to flush out the toxins, and to help you manage your energy levels, hormonal balance, and to continue that sort of 24-hour cycle where you're using up energy, adenosine starts to build up, which makes you feel sleepy. That creates that sleep pressure. When you're taking creatine, that backs off that adenosine. It helps the ATP, the energy currency of your cells, stay active. So instead of becoming an ADP, the creatine gives it another phosphate for it to become ATP, which then gives you that energy. And by taking a small dose of creatine before bed, you're just boosting the quick access to your cellular energy. So I'd be really interested to hear if you're going to try this, please feedback on how you get on. Do you think it does make an improvement to your sleep? There is always the placebo effect. And yeah, I'm a psychotherapist, have been for over 20 years, and I believe very strongly in the placebo effect. So possibly I'm thinking, oh, because I'm taking the creatine, I'm actually sleeping better at night. I genuinely feel like it is having a positive impact. My sleep is interrupted so much with the animals, and the fact that I can just go back to sleep pretty quickly. And also when I'm waking up, well, they wake me up in the early hours. I am feeling so well rested. And nothing has changed except for the fact I am taking a slightly higher dose during the day and also that 3 grams before I go to bed. It just seems to be working. So give it a try. And if you do try it, please just comment back underneath the video, because I'd be so interested to hear how you get on. Do you think it makes a difference to you? I don't wear an Aura ring. If you have an Aura ring or a Fitbit that, tracks the quality of your sleep, that would be a really useful way of actually seeing if it improves your deep sleep over a number of days by taking a small dose of creatine before bed. I mean, maybe I should get an Aura ring. I just think there's so many devices out there. It's just like, it's like having another kitchen appliance. It's something else I've got to watch or do or add onto my body or put onto my kitchen surfaces. The way I'm feeling by taking the extra creatine is really good. And studies are showing that there's not many studies out there yet, but there's more and more people talking about the benefits of creatine and sleep. And there are more studies that will obviously come out. But all the studies that have come out so far are pointing to the fact that it does have a beneficial impact onto the quality of your sleep. So the jury is out. Give it a try, be a guinea pig, and get back in touch and let me know how you get on. So again, thank you so much for your company, and I will look forward to chatting with you again next week.